I'm sorry, Lukas Dostal did what?
You're Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jason JD Hernandez. I've been covering hockey for well over a decade. Thank you for making this your first listen of the weekend, by the way. This is a special weekend edition of Locked On Anaheim Ducks. We don't normally do weekend episodes, but considering the trade deadline and considering everything that has happened with the last game and the fact that there's another game this weekend, I'd be remiss if I didn't actually talk about this game at length. So this will be a special episode on the weekend, and this will be an interesting one because this was against a team that I know Ducks fans just despise, and that's the New Jersey Devils. Oh boy. My big takeaway is the goaltending, and it is obviously the goaltending on this one. Lukas Dostal did it again. Dostal has had some pretty big games in his budding hockey career. On this one, it was a 4-3 victory over the New Jersey Devils. Officially, Lukas Dostal wound up with 52 saves. You heard that right. 52 saves in a big victory. I know this is reminiscent of the Ducks allowing 50-plus shots multiple times last season. I know we're kind of flashing back to that, but at the same time, we're flashing back to the brilliance of Lukas Dostal. He's done this time and time again. In fact, I'm going to kind of have a little bit of a flashback here, if y'all don't mind. We're going to flash back to his his official rookie season, which was last season, where he had some pretty freaking stellar performances in net. And this was after we had a John Gibson injury and whatnot. I mean, we've seen this before. Lukas Dostal last season had some games to remember. My favorite one was the one at Edmonton. This took place around Christmas time last year, where Dostal had an amazing 46 saves in a victory over the Edmonton Oilers. He allowed 3 goals. Very good. He also had 42 saves in an overtime loss to Calgary, like right after that Oilers game. And then that late season overtime loss to the Colorado Avalanche. Even though he gave up 5 goals in that Avs game, I remember the expected goals was something like 6, which is insane. So Dostal has had some pretty significant performances in his time. This one takes the cake. I mean, this is by far almost by far his best game. I would say by far because it was in a win. And I would say by far because of how it ended. Yes, his career high was that 55 save masterpiece against the Toronto Maple Leafs. The only reason I put this one over that one was because that was in an overtime loss. So this one I put a little bit over. And that game against the Maple Leafs, that one ended on a sour note. This game ended with literally a last second save that saved the Ducks on a penalty shot. You heard that right. A penalty shot that Lukas Dostal had to save the day on. I mean, the whole game was ridiculous. I did wind up going back and watching it because I heard how just insane it was. Yeah, Dostal was brilliant. Looking at the hockey stat cards, Lukas Dostal had a game score of 2.14, one of his highest this season. The expected goals against him was 5.14. On the other side, the expected goals for the Ducks was just a pitiful 1.67. 5.14 to 167. The Ducks should have lost like 5-2. And Dostal literally saved them. Gibby did get the start the previous game. Dostal got the start on this one. It was a back-to-back. Dostal deserves more starts than he gets. I've been saying this for the past couple of years. Dostal deserves every good thing coming his way. And I've said this time and time again, the bakery was indeed closed for this one. Yeah, Dostal was amazing, folks. He was just completely out of this world. I love performances like that. I like watching young goaltenders just really come into their own. And this was a case where he just went, he went bonkers. He went absolutely bonkers. You'll love to see it. Dostal has had some pretty great performances with the San Diego Gulls where he would make like 40 saves. Like, he's had some great performances. I think his coming out party was in the 2021 playoffs against the Condors, where Dostal had to save the Gulls. The Gulls allowed an average of like 41 or 42 shots in that series. It was a lot. And Dostal did everything he could to keep the Gulls in that series. Wound up being an overtime loss in the deciding game. But even going back to 2021, 2022, he had some great performances. He had that great win against the San Jose Barracuda where he made 43 saves. Oh, okay, I just saw this, and I remember my note on this. I have to go back and look at my notes at some point. 51 saves in a win over the Colorado Eagles. 51 saves with 53 shots on net. I vaguely remember that game being one of Lukas Dostal's best games of his career. I think the thing that set that one apart was that's right, that note. I actually just like looked at my note. That was the best game of Lukas Dostal's AHL career. He got 51 saves, and that was the game where he got a goalie goal. This was back in March 2nd. Wow. Really? March 2nd, 2022. So on this day, 2 years ago, Lukas Dostal made 51 saves and scored a goal at Colorado. Now that I'm seeing it, I'm like, oh, that's what I remember that now. I remember how just... Did I go crazy watching that game? Yes, I went BS crazy watching that one. Dude's just amazing. He knows how to get the job done. Absolutely. So yeah, that was his best AHL game. This was his best NHL game, and it's going to continue. We're going to continue seeing great performances like this. And on the anniversary of the goalie goal too, no less. Oh, just great. Since the goaltending is my biggest takeaway for this one, I got to go on the other side here and talk about the New Jersey Devils for a second, because the Devils allowed 4 goals in this one, and this has been the Achilles heel for the New Jersey Devils pretty much all season long. The Devils were looking at trying to improve their goaltending. They tried to do that, and it hasn't worked out. Akira Schmid, he's been decent at best. Nico Daws has had some pretty rough games this season, and Vitek Vanacek has just been god-awful. That trio of Schmid, Daws, and Vanacek have allowed, you ready for this? They've allowed 22 more goals than expected. They average a negative game score of about 0.3. So that's pretty bad as a team in general. Not the worst. The worst goaltending would belong to the Ottawa Senators. So, like I said, the Devils, they've allowed about 22 goals more than expected. The Sens are worse. They've allowed 26 more goals than expected. So the Ottawa Senators, Jonas Korpisalo has had an incredibly horrible season. Anton Forsberg, not much better. So when you talk about bad goaltending, yeah, those two are right up there. As far as the Ducks are even for the season. Let me repeat that. The Ducks, well, they're almost even. They've they've allowed only one more goal than expected. So they barely have a negative game score average. Not by much. I mean, it's only one goal, but they're doing about as well as expected for the season, if that makes sense. They've been expected to allow over 200 goals, and that's exactly what the Ducks have done this season. So they are who we thought they were. And Dostal's numbers have improved a lot throughout the season. But, you got to give credit to performances like this, because we've seen Lukas Dostal do this year after year after year. First with the San Diego Gulls, now with the Anaheim Ducks. I still think that Lukas Dostal is the goalie of the future. I still believe that his ceiling is number one goalie in this league, and performances like that back it up, severely. It severely backs it up. So we got to give our flowers to Lukas Dostal. And folks, the bakery was indeed closed. All right, we're going to head into the intermission here and talk about the game in detail. We will get to that on the other side. Now a brief word from FanDuel. And you know what? You can win big with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams, or your favorite NHL players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, futures, and so much more. Oh, and I should probably also add March Madness is coming, folks. Just saying. So just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon, and you know what? Make it a big win. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of the Locked On Podcast Network, and please gamble responsibly. We're also brought to you by the Gametime app. And if you've had a frustrating time buying tickets, if you weren't sure if the seats were good or you couldn't find good last-minute tickets, then, you shouldn't have to worry about that, because Gametime has exactly what you need with all-in prices, views from your seats, their best price guarantee, and they have a slew of last-minute ticket deals, including flash deals and zone deals, which take place just hours before the game. And I like those flash deals because those pop up pretty quickly, and you can get your tickets at a pretty big discount. I've seen tickets for up to 40% off. That's pretty freaking good. They also have event cancellation protection, job loss protection, etc. So, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's redeeming the code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Let's talk about this most unusual and frankly very exciting game between the Ducks and the Devils. First, we had a pretty nice goal from, you ready for this? Frank Vatrano. Yeah, Frank Vatrano raised his trade value in this one, scoring it from in close, making it 1-0. And then Timo Meier on what looked like kind of just a reverse backhand. But before that even happened, I've got to talk about the big hit that took place. This one, I was excited to watch this one. I kind of got up from out of my seat because I'll admit I have a lot of disdain for the New Jersey Devils. Not my favorite team. And Radko Gudas just put a massive hit on Jack Hughes. And so Curtis Lazar went after Radko Gudas and promptly got his butt kicked. Yeah. Not a good look for the Devils there. Radko Gudas, I like when he has big hits. And that was a clean hit, too. I mean, that was like shoulder to body. And Jack Hughes, well, first off, Jack Hughes wasn't looking. He wasn't. At least Gudas didn't have like a headshot. He just he saw Jack Hughes. He saw him coming. He saw him looking down. And he went, you know what? I'm just going to get him just square. Just boom right there. And it wasn't a malicious hit. It was just a big, nice hit, folks. So Curtis Lazar protecting his teammate, I get that, but Gudas just had his number. Yep, applause. Golf clap for Radko Gudas on that one. However, after that, Timo Meier picked up the loose garbage, tied at 1. But then shortly after that, Adam Henrique with a nice wraparound. And Adam Henrique had the puck like on the tip of the blade and just got enough of a wraparound to get it past Nico Daws to make it 2-1 Anaheim after 1 period. Looking pretty good, right? Well, you know what's not looking good, and I've said this a lot about the San Diego goals. Oh, and by the way, the San Diego goals penalty killing did not look good against Ontario Reign Friday night, but we're going to talk about that another time. Jack Hughes on the power play. Look, when you have the brothers working together like that, when you have a perfect diagonal pass on the power play, that is hard to stop. And Luke Hughes with a perfect pass to Jack Hughes. But also Max Jones. Nice tip in from Gus Lidstrom. So Lidstrom had it from just inside the point, got it towards the net, and Max Jones with a perfect deflection just above the shoulders of Nico Daws. 3-2 Ducks. And then Frank Vatrano. Oh yeah, Frank. We love our big Italian goals. On a perfect pass from Troy Terry. If Frank Vatrano does get traded, I'm going to miss that connection because Troy Terry and Frank Vatrano work so well together, folks. So that made it 4-2 Anaheim. Then the third period happened, and, well, yeah, the Ducks did what the Ducks always do. They commit bad penalties when they shouldn't, and it happened again. Gus Lidstrom, you know what? I don't know what he has against the Hughes brothers, but he kind of had it out against them. A little bit of undisciplined play from Lindstrom on this one. And this after Lindstrom had made a perfect pass to Max Jones earlier in the game, but just undisciplined. And of course, famous Duck killer Tyler Toffoli. He did it with the Kings, and he's still doing it now with the New Jersey Devils. Toffoli scored it to make it 4-3 with about 3 minutes left. And then that's when the craziness happened. This, I think, was one of the seminal moments of the season and something that I just went, really? Really? That's what happened? Well, first off, Akira Schmid replaced Nico Daws in third period. And it was just kind of ridiculous, folks. How to describe this? It's loose with about 20 seconds left. New Jersey's pounding away at the net, just like trying to get any loose puck in. And the puck winds up to the side of Lukas Dostal. Then it winds up behind him. Dostal's strap snapped off. And just as the helmet was about to come off, Frank Vatrano purposely pushed the net off its moorings with a couple of seconds left. And the result of that, folks, is a penalty shot. I kid you not. And this is in the rule book that you cannot deliberately push the net off its moorings. If it is deemed that it's deliberate, then it is a penalty shot. And I love this quote from Frank Vatrano. Quote, "I knew it was a penalty. I just didn't know it was a penalty shot. That's one of those reactionary plays, and Doss made a big save for us like he did all night." End quote. By the way, hat tip to Derek Lee for that one. Look, you got to know the rules. You do. And especially if the puck is behind the net, you've got to think that time is going to run out anyway. And the whistle would have been blown because the helmet was coming off from Lukas Dostal. Like, it was coming off. So, yeah. That penalty shot happened. And you know who tried to shoot it in? Hughes. Which Hughes would you say? Yeah, I think this was the Jack Hughes penalty shot. And it did not go in. So that wound up being the final nail in the coffin. Ducks win 4-3 on the heels of a last-second penalty shot save from Lukas Dostal. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I can't believe it came down to a penalty shot of all things. How does that even happen? With a couple of seconds left to boot. Like, it's almost too stupid to make up, especially with the kind of performance Lukas Dostal had. This was one of the most ridiculous, I didn't even watch it live, but this was one of the most ridiculous games that I watched, and I purposely watched it back after watching Jeopardy, of course. But what a win for the Ducks. And it is so satisfying to see the Ducks beat the New Jersey Devils. Yeah, you know what? I asked for a Ducks victory against Devils, and I got it. I was hoping for a blowout, but I think what we got here was much better. This was much better than a blowout. So Jack Hughes denied. Get out of here. Have fun in SoCal in the rain. Yeah. Yeah, imagine that. New Jersey comes to town expecting to have a fun day. Now, they're going to be stuck in their hotel rooms. They're going to be stuck watching the rain. Ha ha ha. All right. Before we wrap up, I just want to give a quick update on other stuff going on. So the reason I didn't watch the game live is because I was doing public address for the Ontario Junior Reign in Ontario. And the Junior Reign dropped their first game of the series. So they're down 1-0 in their series. It's a best of 3. So they need to win their next 2 in order to advance. So this is me actually trying to appeal to all the Ducks fans out there, like trying to convince you to come watch some hockey. It is a Saturday night game. Game time is around 8 o'clock. It's at Ontario Center Ice Arena. I mentioned one of the assistant coaches for the Ontario Junior Reign, former Duck player Andrew O'Brien, who is one of the assistant coaches for the Anaheim Ducks. For those of you that remember Andrew O'Brien, he was, in the Ducks organization for a little bit there. He spent some time with the San Diego Gulls. He actually spent parts of a couple of seasons with the San Diego Gulls, and also some time with the Norfolk Admirals before they moved to San Diego. So he's been part of the Ducks organization for a while there. And then got called up, or actually didn't get called up, but, spent some time in the Ducks organization. So I think he actually played some preseason games, now that I recall, that Andrew O'Brien played. But, all around cool guy. And for me personally, watching him take slappers in practice, really cool. So if you want to show your support, we'd love to have as many fans come out as possible. So once again, Game 2 is Saturday night. Game 3, if necessary, will be Sunday night. Hopefully it goes to a Game 3, and I'll post about it on my personal Twitter, which is @StimpyJD. So just keep an eye out for that. I sincerely hope to see a lot of you guys come out for Game 2 on Saturday night. There's no Ducks game, so what else are you going to do? Come support your local hockey team, or one of your local hockey teams if you're in the IE. All right, that's going to do it for this extra weekend podcast. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Don't forget this podcast is free and available across all platforms, including Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, etc., etc. Twitter, StimpyJD. The show's Twitter, @LO_Ducks. Or you could email me at lockedonanaheimducks@gmail.com. And once again, thank you all for your continued support. It is so greatly appreciated. We'll be back on Monday, folks. For Locked On Anaheim Ducks, I'm Jason J.D. Hernandez saying have a great rest of the weekend. Hope to see you at Center Ice Arena. Please remember to be safe out there, be kind to one another, and Ducks fly together.